Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unlock Digital. My name is Casey Paxton. I am the Content Marketing Manager here at Akeneo, and I have the honor of being your virtual host and MC over these next 2 days. Now, we have an absolutely packed agenda for you all. If you happened to join us in Chicago last week for our in-person event, you may have gotten a bit of a sneak peek of the agenda, but if you couldn't make it to the Windy City, we're glad that you could join us here today and tomorrow to talk about how you can actually build the foundation and the technological infrastructure to thrive in this new age of commerce. From simple translation and localization services and enhanced search and discovery to checkouts being built directly into LLMs and this whole idea of agentic commerce, AI has evolved and grown in retail and commerce way faster than most of us have anticipated, and it's showing no signs of slowing down. Now, the good news is that we're all in this together. And over these next 2 days, we've got keynote sessions and customer champion stories and hands-on labs and workshops that were built to help you tackle how you can adapt your business and your tech stack today to be prepared for the commerce experiences of tomorrow. Now, for just a little bit of housekeeping, in the agenda overviews for each session, you'll find free PDFs available to download. These are just some supporting assets or related content for each session that you can download and share with your team after the event, so please be sure to check those out. Now, one last thing before we really dive in, I want to take a minute to thank the sponsors of Unlock Digital. In between Print, Citation, and TransPerfect, you have all been wonderful partners and sponsors, and we would not be able to put on this event without you all, so thank you very much. All right, that's enough for me. It's time to officially get things started. So without any further ado, I would love to welcome the CEO of Akeneo, Ramon Fuesh, to the stage.
Hello, everyone. I am Ramon Fuesh, the Chief Executive Officer at Akeneo, and it's a great pleasure to be here virtually with all of you today for our Unlock 2026 Digital Edition. It's following up on a great in-person Unlock that took place last week in Chicago, and we wanted to make sure that all of you could benefit from the amazing content that we shared and discussed with professionals from over our markets during the last week. There's been a lot of things happening since our last Unlock last year. We talked last year about riding the wave of AI. Are you ready to brace for AI or to embrace AI? And definitely we at Akeneo and our ecosystem has done a lot to be on the embracing side of the equation. We've worked with our customers, with our prospects, with our partners to actually make the most of the deep changes that are coming there. And if you look at it, it's been a resounding year of success for Akeneo and its broader ecosystem. We've bridged more than 1,000 customers. We have made 4 releases, deep and heavy in contents, and we have worked actively across our ecosystems with our SI and ISV partners. There has been a lot that has happened, but as you'll see over the course of today and tomorrow for Unlock Digital, there is still a lot of things that are to happen. A lot has changed in the world more broadly also. We've seen deep disruption on commerce itself. AI and agentic are bringing huge changes in the way people are buying. We've seen huge disruptions in the world itself. We've seen changes in the economical and political scenario, and we've also seen deep changes in software. Vibe coding, AI, all of that is changing the expectation of what happened on software. And as a global commerce software vendor, all of these changes are important to us, and we have the huge benefit of being at the center of the nexus of these huge disruptions that are coming, so that we can learn from it and help you navigate through them in the most efficient way possible. Now, how to start this session, how to start this Unlock Digital. It's not easy. And first, when I thought about it, I thought maybe we can do what seems to be happening since last year. I mean, if you look at it, 2025, everything was about AI, and this year, everything is about agentic. So maybe the simplest way to do is just to search and replace every occurrence of AI, replace it with agentic, and see where that takes us. I have to admit I did try it. It seems a bit lazy, but I did try to do that. It didn't turn out so well. I thought that my first name was unpronounceable to begin with in 2025. It's definitely not looking any better in 2026. So if I cannot just do a find and replace, I need to think of other things that might be important for you to be able to cover them. And there's been one question I have been getting over and over the course of the past year with executives and senior leaders at our prospects, customers, and partners. It's the question of how much of my business should I expect to be driven by AI and agentic commerce over the course of the next year? And it's a very important question because we see all of the changes and the question of performance this can get. And I have a simple answer to that. It's, I don't know. I just don't know how much of the exact business is going to be driven by that. But there are things that I know. And I think one of the very important questions we need to ask ourselves is, what is going to be the broader role of agentic? The exact percentage of business, I don't know just yet, but the impact is going to have, I think we can draw a vision and a conviction on what it is going to be. And one of the main questions that is there is agentic commerce just going to be an additional channel from which people can buy that will live in parallel of e-commerce, an additional channel like many others, or is it going to be an actual replacement of everything we know about e-commerce? That is the heart of the question that is making people wonder across the world. And I think that one way to address it is to look at our history, look back. And if you look back 10, 25 years ago, we had exactly the same question with the rise of e-commerce. Was e-commerce going to be an additional channel in parallel to what happens in physical store, brick and mortar store, or was it going to completely replace the brick and mortar model? And what we've learned at that time is that it's actually not completely one and not completely the other. The change that happened is that e-commerce became, at the same time, yes, an additional channel. Some of the purchases that were done in brick and mortar store were captured by e-commerce, but more importantly, e-commerce led to a complete transformation of the customer journey. And that, yes, there are still brick and mortar store, but what is being bought in brick and mortar is heavily influenced by what happens in e-commerce. It's not just a question of channels, it's a question of customer journey, where now most, if not all of the purchases done in brick and mortar are actually influenced by e-commerce. This actual combination of the two led to what may be called the original sin of the commerce stack, which is that many companies initially saw e-commerce as a separate channel and built separate stack for their e-commerce and the brick and mortar. It took years for many of them to recover. That siloing of the stack led to significant difficulty and underperformance and hardship for companies who wanted to make up for it later. I think what is happening with agentic and AI commerce is following the same trajectory as what happened for e-commerce and brick and mortar. That ultimately, agentic is not a replacement or just an additional channel. It's yes, agentic is an additional channel. Some of the things that are currently sold in e-commerce or in brick and mortar will or already sold through agentic. But more importantly, it is once again a customer journey transformation. If you look at AI and agentic on their two main components, one is discovery, one is transactions. Transactions are coming at their pace, potentially faster even in B2B than in B2C, but discovery is clear already there, and we're already seeing it influence the full of the purchases that are being made. And ultimately, the question of the stack becomes the same as the one we had 20, 25 years ago. If there is such an embedding of agentic commerce within e-commerce and brick and mortar, you cannot think your stack in isolation. You need to think of a single stack, but a single stack that is significantly different from the one you had before, hence the great restack theme of this year's Unlock. Now, what do we need as part of this stack? What does this stack need to solve for? Well, at Akeneo, we're obviously fairly biased because we think first and foremost about product experience, about product data. And if we look at the product data, the expectations from product data are several-fold. First, you need to have product data that is comprehensive. You need to be able to cover and to address the many different decision criteria that your buyers might have. But that's not all that you need. You need to ensure velocity, freshness, up-to-dateness. You need to ensure that your product data will evolve at the rhythm and at the pace of your market and your ecosystem to always deliver the correct up-to-date data to the right people. And last, but also very important, you need trust. One single bad product experience can actually lose a customer for you forever. So you need these three things. You need a stack that will ensure that for product data, you have comprehensiveness, velocity, and trust. Now, I know what many of you might be thinking on your side of the screen. Might be thinking, well, that's nothing new under the sun. And you know what? I actually love that expression of nothing new under the sun. I love that expression because it's a kind of self-explanatory expression, even for the single reason that the expression itself is 2,500 years old, which means that for 2,500 years old, we've used the same expression to say that there are new things that are coming. That's in itself pretty crazy. But even crazier than that is to realize that there is something that is older than that expression that says that nothing new. Here is what is called the tablet of Ea Nazir. Sorry for the mispronunciation. It's a tablet that is normally on display at the British Gallery Museum. That actually shows what is considered as one of the earliest customer complaints in the world. It shows a complaint of a customer saying that the copper that they had ordered and what delivered to them was not of the quality that had been advertised and agreed upon. This tablet is 4,000 years old, which means that the challenges we are looking to solve with our great restacking at the edge of AI and agentic commerce is actually a challenge that is 4,000 years old. That's not really new, and I'm not sure it deserves such a presentation of the disruption of the market in which we are. But actually, there are some things that are new under the sun because of this change of AI and agentic. Because what is happening right now is that even though the comprehensiveness, velocity, and trust challenges are still there, they have changed in nature. First, comprehensiveness. It's not about having the right numbers of attributes anymore. It's about being able to capture the infinite number of intents and reasons for which a customer might want to buy the products that you have. Because you don't have a technology that limits the intents of the customers to go through keywords. They can now express their intents as they are and interact with AI and agents to find something that is matching their intention, not their keyword formulation. You need to be able to capture all of the reasons for which someone might want to buy your product. Next, velocity. We're seeing it. The change is constant and never stop. The protocols, the channels, the expectations from customers, the number of suppliers you have, your distributors, it is changing, if not every day, every week, and you need to adjust to all of that. Launching a new product in a matter of hours, rethinking your supply chain in a matter of weeks, the change is constant and never stop. And you have infinite intents, you have constant change, but you have even less margin for error. I mentioned before that a single bad product experience could actually lead to losing a customer, but today it's even worse than that. A bad product experience can lead you to losing whole segments of your customer due to the speed at which information navigates. And much more than that, with AI, everything that was on top of your data is stripped out. You don't have a nice website, nice color, nice graphics that can potentially help alleviate some of the challenges on your data. AI strips your data bare. It will actually fall into the trap of any challenges, inconsistencies, errors, or missing elements in your data, but can also amplify all of the completeness that you have. So you end up in a situation where there is no more margin for error. Infinite intents, constant change, zero margin for error. These are all pulling in different directions. While at the same time, the means available to address this are not necessarily scaling, or the resources at your disposal are not necessarily scaling at the pace of that change. And that actually opens the question is, what is the change on the stack side that can help with that situation? And for that, we can look a bit at the history of the stacks. If we look at how stacks need to evolve, we can look at the history. First, well, if we go back to ancient Sumer, maybe that was what was called an e-commerce stack at the time, a stack of clay tablets. And at that time, I'm sure data was a chore, when you have to go collect clay, make it dry, and then write into it with a stylus, and then have someone take it. That's not easy. Okay, but let's fast forward a few thousand years. The first e-commerce stack when there was the rise of even the name seems obsolete now, WWW, World Wide Web, product information requirement on it from the stack was just basically to have some information about your products. And so data was more of an add-on of the website than anything else. And the way to do it, the means at disposal were basically an interface to write into a database. But then things evolved and data became a bit more central with the multiplication of channels, e-commerce fragmentation, all of the places you could sell, all of the markets on which you could be, with the multiplication of suppliers. Then data became more of an execution engine, and we saw the product information and the e-commerce stack evolve more towards the workflow engine, potentially AI augmented workflows, because data is what helps drive the execution. Today, in a world of infinite intent, constant change, and zero margin for error, the stack needs to evolve again. Because what we're seeing now in the age of agentic is that data is no more an add-on on the side. It's no more just an execution engine. Data becomes the foundation. There is no good AI without good data. There is no success discoverability in the age of agentic without data being positioned as the foundation of your commerce stack. Product data is the foundation of commerce. And this is the challenge we're facing today, but there is hope for it. Because if the stakes have significantly increased because of AI and agentic, the means are also drastically evolving. And this is what you're going to be covering with Sarah Zeus, our VP of Product Marketing, is how we can think that new stack, that direct restacking, in the age of agentic and AI to actually make the most of these technologies to address the needs that the market are bringing to you.
Thank you very much, Romain. Yes, indeed. I will be telling you a little bit more about how we will be tackling the Great Restack for you. And as Romain just said, for a decade now, we've used beautiful web designs to hide a dirty secret. Our product data is a mess. But in this agentic era, that paint is stripped away, right? Like things have changed. When the AI agent queries your brand, it sees your data. That's pretty much what they see nowadays. And so if your data is thin, your brand becomes invisible. But I wish it was so simple, and I wish we could just fix it with a switch. And unfortunately, it's just not possible. That's why we are here today to talk about the Great Restack. We need to stop thinking and looking at our tech like a bunch of disconnected tiny Lego pieces and start treating product data as the engine of your GTM success. It belongs right at the center of your business strategy. But again, AI alone isn't going to be enough to save you on this one. AI only works if it has the context, the skills to make the right decisions, and a structure you can trust. That's why we've decided to evolve the PIM into an agentic product platform. This platform will include the right guardrails and governance so that you can scale quickly without losing control of your brand. And in this instance, PIM is no longer a static database hidden in the back office. It becomes a system of intelligence where you are orchestrating the system as it evolves with the market while keeping you in total control. So you're going to tell me, Sarah, what does this actually mean? Well, when you work with a PIM today, you start with ingesting data. We're all very familiar with this model. But what if I told you that in order to be successful in this new agentic era, you need to start by listening to the world? You need to be bringing in market signals, performance data, AI search trends at the same time as your static data. That's why we're suggesting we flip things around and start with sensing the signals and then ingesting the data. As you can see here, point 1 on the left of the screen. But to do this, you need a new foundation. And this is where we're bringing in this concept of an adaptive data model. We believe it's a core component of this product agentic platform. What it'll do is that it'll provide you with a self-improving catalog that suggests how your data should evolve before you even go live. That way you move away from managing data and scaling your expertise while staying in control. Many of you are working really hard right now to define that core data model. And the question we often hear is, when should I start integrating market signals? After go live, in phase 2, once everything is stable? Well, guess what? The real thing is you need to have started already. You need to be starting now. If you wait, you're building your model in the dark. And I'm not here to scare you, right? But what we've seen is that in order to make a product model effective, it isn't just internal logic that you need. It's more about how well it performs in the real world. So the question is no longer when. It's, do you want to design your model based on internal assumptions or based on real world signals? And like I said, we're not here to scare you, which is why this diagram is showing that you can build those, you can bring in those market signals at any point of your journey. But we recommend, if you haven't started, to get started. And the most forward-thinking teams don't wait. They've already started listening to the world. And this is exactly the case for this global leader in board games who decided to get started with the market signals. They used live market signals to listen to what players were actually searching for before they even touched their data model. They brought those real world signals and their product attributes together into one single motion. They stopped guessing what the market wanted and started listening to it instead. But an adaptive foundation this dynamic requires a new way of working. Most of us think of AI as the solution, and really as AI as a helper for this. But to truly scale, you don't need a helper. You're going to need a workforce. So I'd like to quickly walk you through what the difference is between a helper versus a workforce. First, you have AI powered, a very buzzy term. We see it everywhere. Every product has AI powered something. Well, I want you to start thinking about AI powered as a chatbot stuck on a 20-year-old database. It's an accessory. It can suggest a description, fix a typo, but it can't actually act on your behalf. It's always hitting a limit because it's waiting for you. It's waiting for you to click save, click approve. It's expecting an action. In this model, you might save 3, 4, 5 minutes on a task, but you're still doing all the heavy lifting while AI just watches you do it. So to truly scale, you have to move past an assistant that watches you to an agent that works for you. That's where natively agentic comes in. This is where AI isn't just a feature anymore. It's the operating model. In this system, it has the context and the skills to act on its own under your governance. And it doesn't wait for you to type. Think of it this way. You move from being the person who inputs the data to the person who validates the logic. And now you're no longer saving 3, 4, 5 minutes. You're changing your entire role. You're moving from managing a static database to governing a fleet of agents. This is really how you're going to scale your expertise without scaling your effort. So, if this adaptive model is the foundation and the fleet of agents is the engine, what would that actually look like if this was living and deployed in a PIM? So we've got a little representation for you today. So first, you can have a data architect agent that basically ingests, maps, and structures your product data automatically. Then you can have an enrichment agent, which would contextualize and generate key product attributes on your behalf. Thirdly, you can then have a channel connect agent. This is one that can activate and syndicate your product experiences where it matters most for you and your brand. And finally, you have the GEO feedback agent that will learn from the market and feed those signals back into your PIM. So basically in this model, you're no longer data clerks. You're strategic orchestrators managing a high-performance team. This entire lifecycle runs autonomously under your governance. But I can be here telling you all how lovely these fleet of agents could be, but luckily for you, we actually have some of this in action as part of the what next and the product keynote that you'll be seeing or having access to later as part of the Unlock Digital content. Everything we've seen sounds really cool, but you're probably wondering, what if this adaptive data model really works? Does it actually deliver today? Well, we've got some brands today that have already started leveraging this model and have built this foundation. Courir, a B2C retailer, moved from manual XA chaos to automated orchestration. They managed to reduce their launch time from 5 days to 1 hour. Steelcase, a workplace manufacturer in B2B, they've restructured their massive global catalog, accelerating their time to market by 63%. And Caterpillar, who doesn't really need any introduction in terms of brand size, they manage millions of parts with the governance this model provides. And I want to repeat, they have built the right foundation to enable them to do this. And because they have this adaptive data model in place, they're perfectly positioned to deploy the fleet of agents that we have just seen in the previous slide. So we talked about PIM and how this needs to adapt in order to succeed. Well, this is where extensibility needs to come in. Extensibility is your insurance policy. It's how you're going to ensure that you're not making a wrong investment that you'll need to rip out in the next 2 to 3 years. But when people hear extensibility, they think APIs, integrations. It's so much more than that. It's about building an architecture for a moving destination. Whether it's MCP today, and I know we also have ACP, UCP, all these lovely new acronyms. Those are the ones of today. But there could be a new AI search engine tomorrow. You need to be able to simply plug into everything you need to make your business successful. And luckily for you, we've got an extension platform that's coming out, as well as an MCP as part of our spring release, and you'll be able to see that in action as part of our product keynotes and the labs that will become available to you. So we talked about the architecture, and then we talked about the data. But have you really thought about the impact on your teams? Right now, your best people are acting like data clerks, fixing the same manual errors every Monday morning. The Great Restack isn't just about transforming your technology. It's about developing superpowers for your people. It's about moving them from the engine room we just talked about to the cockpit. You and your teams are the champions of this success because you are no longer just managing a database. You are the strategic orchestrators of an organization that finally moves at machine speed. Let's give it a little example here. Think about a person on your team, anybody. She spent the last 6 years trapped in spreadsheet hell, fixing the same 300 errors every Monday morning. I mean, I want you to pause right now and really think about this. Every Monday morning, can you imagine spending your weekend and knowing that you are coming on Monday morning to fix over 300 errors? And this is just an example. It could be 500, 1,000. It's very daunting. And for your organization, she becomes a bottleneck. And it's not because she wants to be, but it's because the old stack makes her one. Now, imagine her tomorrow. Instead of fighting rows of data, she's governing a fleet of agents. The agents we just talked about. She defines the rules, and the agents execute on her behalf. She finally has the headspace to look at the big picture and spot strategic gaps. We know recognition can be very important, and in this example for you today, her CEO actually knows her name, thanks to the shift of responsibilities and leveraging these agents. This is the superpower of a strategic orchestrator. And at the end of the day, you're not just transforming your tech stack, you're giving your people their careers back. We just covered a lot of ground between the evolution of the stack thinking about what the great restack actually means. But if you're going to really take one key thing away from this, let it be this. The great restack is your roadmap to the agentic era. It isn't just a single feature. It's the four moving parts that work in harmony that we have just covered. It's an adaptive data model that lets you stop ingesting and start sensing the world. It's a fleet of agents that sits on top of that model to run your entire lifecycle at machine speed. It's total extensibility, ensuring you can plug into whatever the market throws at you next. And finally, your people. It's about turning them in from data clerks to strategic orchestrators. Make sure you remember those 4 key points. This is where Akeneo is investing. This is where you will see demonstrations through the product keynote and the labs, but this is also how you're going to win in this agentic era. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much to both Sarah and Roman for kicking things off today and helping us to better understand this idea of agentic commerce and how your tech stack and foundation of product data can adapt and grow in this new era. Now, be sure to join us for our next session, which will be our PX Champion story with Andrea Scott, Product Data Quality Manager at Henderson Food Service. Just a quick note, so each session today will have its own link. So to get to the next session, you'll need to exit out of this one and join the next link in the agenda. This one's titled The Recipe for Better Data, How Henderson Food Service Turns Product Data into a Strategic Asset. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you at the next session.